Hi everyone, it's Butterfly, and welcome to day 19 of Heather Carter's 31 Days of Witchcraft Challenge. And today's question is, how did you come to your personal path? I was raised in a Christian home, but by the time I was old enough to think more about religion and to ask questions, I was not so happy to be a Christian myself. And I'm not Christian bashing. Um, I know it's a very individual thing within every religion, right? Every person believes sort of their own way. So I'm not saying, if you're a Christian witch or something that there's anything wrong with you or any other Christian person. But for me, there were problems, and I was exposed to some messages from Christian sources that I strongly disagreed with. Their idea of morality sometimes felt like, and still does feel like, immorality to me when it came to certain things. And there were things that just were not working for me. And but for some time, I didn't think that I had a choice because of fear, because I really believed, as I was taught to believe, that there are so many ways, even by accident, that if you're not super careful, you will go to hell. And if you decide to not be a member of the one true religion, you will go to hell. And hell is supposed to be worse than anything you can imagine. Just horrible suffering for all of eternity. And sometimes I would question it a little bit, but then I would think, that's so terrible. Isn't it better just to be safe? And there were many nights as a child that I lost sleep over that because of the looming fear of hell. But as I got older, I was questioning. And then pretty much every year around Halloween time, there would be shows on TV talking about real witches, and sometimes talking about Wicca a little bit. And I found that really interesting because before then, I thought maybe witches are just fairy tale characters. Even though I was really attracted to the archetype of the witch. And I think that was a big part of that, is that the archetype of the witch is, and of course, like, witches don't have to be women, but the archetypal images that you're exposed to most often are of a strong woman, a woman with powers. And I, as a young girl, did not feel empowered at all. And so a part of me really yearned for that. And I wanted that. And I had like fantasies of being a witch, but I didn't really know what that meant, but it was something that I thought it must be nice to be. And then there was a women and spirituality trilogy of 3 documentaries that came out. One was Women and Spirituality, Goddess Remembered, which came out in 1989. And the next one was Women and Spirituality, The Burning Times, which came out in 1990. And Women and Spirituality, Full Circle, which came out in 1993. And after those 3 had come out, they were on TV together as a trilogy. And so in 1993, I was 11. So I might have seen these 3 documentaries when I was about 12. And it changed my life. They gave me goosebumps. They put words to things that I had felt but couldn't name. There were so many ideas, and I felt like my eyes were opened, and I was so inspired. Obviously, there's a lot of feminism in something that's called Women and Spirituality, the Goddess Trilogy. And I had a little burning feminist heart already that just loved that. And I was exposed to so many ideas through these wise grown-up women who are having these experiences and talking in these documentaries, that I began to feel that there are other options. I do not need to believe in this God the way that I was told that I have to. And I don't have to be afraid. And that was a huge thing for me. And I felt like the word that keeps coming to mind is thirsty. My spirit was thirsty for something. And one of those things, one thing that my soul was thirsty for was goddess. I was like, goddess? There are people who worship goddess. I can get to know her and have a relationship with her. People are doing that. And from that point on, I was like, I need to be a goddess worshiping witch, and I will learn whatever I need to learn, and I will find out how to do this, and that is what I'm going to do. And I did. That was the thing that really launched me on this path of discovery. And then my family was pretty cool about it. I was young, and I can imagine if I was in their shoes and I was raised in a way that I thought, if my child is not part of this religion that I'm trying to raise them as, that I grew up in, that they're going to hell, I would be concerned if they were like, hey, I want to be something else. And there was like a little concern. But then when I shared things that I was interested in and we talked about it a little bit, they're pretty supportive of me. Like, when I first told my mother, what would you think if I became pagan? which is kind of a funny question because if you're believing pagan beliefs already, then you are pagan. But I was at an age where I felt like I needed outside validation, and also I didn't want to be like in the broom closet, even though I didn't know of that term at the time. And at first, my mother was like, I remember we were driving somewhere and she was like, well, fine if you don't want to go to heaven. But then she totally turned around, and she's had psychic experiences and like witchy experiences herself. And before I knew it, she was the one who bought me my first witch book. That was Scott Cunningham's Wicca for the Solitary Practitioner. And we didn't have many problems. Like, sometimes she would ask me to ask Jesus to be present at my pagan rituals, which I politely declined. But other than that, oh, and she was afraid of me using anything with fire. And I was a kid, so I could kind of understand that, even though she's still afraid of me using fire now. But you know, I'm going a little off track there. So my mom was pretty supportive in her way. Like I said, she bought me my first witchy book, and I became a Lorena McKennitt fan from watching the Women in Spirituality Goddess trilogy, and because she did a lot of the music for those documentaries. And I remember my mom taking me to a store at the mall that sold lots of crystals and new age things, and there were Lorena McKennitt CDs, and she got them for me, and it was like, it's a happy memory. It was sort of a magical time. And my grandmother, my grandparents played such a big part in helping my mother raise me. So it was like I had three parents. And I don't blame my dad. He had issues of his own that he had to deal with. But they helped raise me big time. And my grandmother at first thought that it was a little, what was the term she used? A little far out, the path that I was choosing, but and she thought that it might be a phase, but she was into some interesting things too. She used to do seances and stuff when she was young, and so I guess she had her own sort of witchy time, and she was the one who bought me my first little goddess statue, which I still have from way back then. So that's special for me. And my grandfather, I didn't find out until almost the end of his life that he had been a Sunday school teacher at one time, but he never gave me a hard time about my spirituality. When he found out about me becoming a Wiccan witch, his only thing was that he described someone to me that he knew about who did like negative magic, and he was just like, just don't do that. And I was like, okay, Grandpa. and that was it. So, this video is going to have so many funny little jumpy bits because my son keeps needing my attention. But yeah, that's how I came to my personal path, and I feel very blessed that it's the path that I found, and I wouldn't change it for the world. And I'll be really interested to see your stories. So I'm gonna go check on my kids now. And I'll be looking forward to seeing you in the next one. Bye.